Hey, what's going on everyone? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. We are going to take another look at our Zoodiac deck that I have been practicing with for the upcoming AA-ZEUS Festival event. Now, I have been doing some practicing off camera, so unfortunately this isn't going to be live commentary. However, I did want to share a few replays because if we take a look at the duel menu and go to ranked duel here, you can see that I'm currently at a 9-game win streak. I thought about trying to go for 10, but I was like, no, you know what? I've got 9. I'm just going to make the video now. So yeah, 9 wins in a row on ranked 1 ladder with our current Zoodiac build. Needless to say, I am very satisfied with it. As always, we are going to begin by taking a look at the build itself. Here has not changed since the deck profile, still just been practicing it. We've still got 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Maxx and 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Skull Meister, and finally 2 Nibiru to round out the hand traps. We've got 1 Zoodiac Bunnyblast, 3 Zoodiac Whiptail, 3 Thoroughblade, and 3 Ramram for our Zoodiac suite of monsters. In the spell department, we've got a Harpie's Feather Duster and a Monster Reborn. We've got 2 Pot of Avarice, we have 3 Pot of Desires, 2 Lightning Storm, 3 Tenki, and 2 Called By, and finally we have the 3 Infinite Impermanence to end out the main deck here. In the extra deck we have number F0 and number F0 the Draco variant. We've got 3 copies of Tigermoartar, 1 Dryent, which we could have more, but we can only have 1. 2 Boarbow, 2 Hammerkong, 3 Chakanine. We've got 1 Droll Driver Vespenato. This card has been performing very well. I'm slightly considering a second copy. Would probably take out the 3rd Tigermoartar, go down to 2 copies if I were to do that. It's, again, something I've been considering. I'm not 100% sold on yet. And finally, we have our 1 copy of Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder. Alright, so that is the build there. If you want to check out a full profile, that link is going to be in the description below. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these replays from our win streak and from my practice session. Alright, you can see we've got a few games that we're going to take a look at here. Let's go ahead and jump right into the first one. Yeah, no, this has been a very satisfying practice session. I am happy not only with Zoodiac as a deck for the AA-ZEUS Festival, really as a deck in general. I'm having a lot of fun playing it. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to. You know, starting with Zoodiac Thoroughblade, I kind of thought to myself, like, oh, you know, this is just going to be a more boring version of the deck I've already been playing, but no, Zoodiac is its very own interesting deck in its own right. Now, as you can see, our opponent's going to start off with an Extravagance and then set 4 back rows, so it looks like we're playing as Eldlich, but we're the luckiest player in the world, so we have Harpie's Feather Duster and Lightning Storm, so that's not going to particularly matter here. We've also got Tenki and Desires and Whiptail and Ramram. This is a very, very solid opening hand. And it's fortunate, actually, in a way that we were matched up against Eldlich because we didn't have any hand traps, even though we had an otherwise excellent hand. So, with this particular hand, this is probably the best matchup we could have asked for, to be quite honest. So I have a plan to get rid of this Golden Lord. I'm going to make use of Whiptail's effect. For those who don't know, any Zoodiac, or rather, any AA-ZEUS monster whose original type is Beast Warrior that has the Whiptail as a material, that is going to have the ability to banish any monster that it battles. So that's going to be very important for getting rid of the Golden Lord, obviously, because, well, if the Golden Lord is in the graveyard, it can recur itself. And one thing I always say about Eldlich is, the back rows are scary, but if your opponent doesn't have access to a Golden Lord, they don't really have a win condition, and then the back rows aren't that scary. You can just poke them with your monsters. In this case, they don't have the Golden Lord or their back rows, so I am not particularly afraid of Eldlich. However, Eldlich is unlike other stun decks in the past, and even other stun decks in the current format, except maybe Altergeist, in that they have the ability to recur. They have a lot of recursion, and what I mean by that is that their traps can get more traps from the deck, which just means it's harder for them to run out of fuel than other stun decks normally would, except again, Altergeist arguably has about the same amount, if not a little more recursion. As you can see, our opponent's already got another 5 back row. We're going to go ahead and Zeus during the end phase, though our opponent still is going to have the opportunity to banish some of their back rows in order to get more. However, if we look at their graveyard, you can see we've gotten rid of a couple of skill drains, which is really nice, as well as 2 copies of Mystic Walk, which is interesting. Our opponent's actually playing a grass variant, because you can see they have quite a few cards in their deck, so I'm not sure if Mystic Walk is always in the grass variant, but it's an interesting tech, you know, sacrifice the Golden Lord to gain some life points. I can see it. Now, again, our opponent is going to be able to set up more Eldlich traps, but I'm not particularly afraid of them. I've got the Zeus, and I've got tons of ammo in my hand to stop a surge, to draw off special summons. I've got a lightning storm if I need it, and I've got an imperm as well. I did consider setting the imperm in the same zone as this forest spell trap to potentially negate it, but I decided that was ultimately a bit of a niche use, and I think I'd rather keep it in my hand for the moment. So yeah, as you can see with their recursion, they are able to get 3 more back row. However, we know none of them are floodgates or something like Solemn Judgment, so we can at least be assured that our plays aren't going to be stopped. It might be a small nuisance if they flip some of these cards up, but it's not ultimately going to really affect us all that much. Yeah, I'm going to pop off the Maxx here because I'm not going to get really any other chance, I think, to use it this game. And against Eldlich, if you can even use your Maxx for a draw, I think that's perfectly fine. We are going to overlay our Thoroughblade. We're going to start with Hammerkong as always for the additional material. We are then going to go into a Tigermoartar. We can use Tigermoartar's ability to detach the Hammerkong and then attach the Whiptail from the graveyard. This will let us banish this trap monster that we attack, which means our opponent won't be able to get another Eldlich card from it. And as you can see, our opponent is eventually going to be running out of steam. They are reaching a point where like not even access to a Golden Lord is really going to be able to get them out of their situation from being this far behind. We've also still got the Ash, we've got the Droll and Lockbird. I think I do actually end up setting the Impermanence here, if I recall correctly, in the middle zone with the spell and trap. We've also got a Drident established, we've got a Ramram for next turn. I'm really not concerned with really anything my opponent can do. As you can see, after the draw, they really aren't able to do much, and as a result, they concede. Alright, let's move right into the next game against Finally. Finally, a duel that ironically only lasted 2 turns. So it looks like we are going to start off. We only have the Bunnyblast as our one Zoodiac monster, but that's alright. It's still a Zoodiac monster, and really as long as we have that, we can go into at least some amount of plays. Now I'm going to go into the Hammerkong, and then from there into a Tigermoartar. I'm basically building up some materials before I make my final play, which is going to be to go into a Drident. We're going to summon that Drident in defense mode, and then I'm going to set the called by, just in case we end up needing it during our opponent's turn. So, yeah, I mean, you know, not the strongest setup, but, yeah, we've got this, the Ash, and we've got the Skull Meister, we've got a Drident, and we've got a Called By. I'm feeling fairly confident what we're able to do. We're going to Ash our opponent's first Drytron monster, and then when they attempt to activate the second from the grave, we're then going to use our Skull Meister. And after that, our opponent is not going to be able to do much. In fact, I believe after this they are going to, yep, concede. So, yeah, a very quick game there, but shows the effectiveness of Skull Meister. Skull Meister is a card that appears very narrow, but actually there are a lot of decks. In fact, pretty much all of them have effects that activate in the graveyard. And really, this is like showing off some of the strength of Zoodiac, is being able to run all these different hand traps, and we can really just control our opponent down without even really having to commit too much to the board. Alright, let's take a look into a game that's got a little bit more substance to it now. Although, isn't it satisfying to defeat Drytron so quickly? Like, it really, really is. I know, I'm like, oh, you shouldn't hate any particular deck, and I don't hate Drytron, but I do feel good when I defeat them, I'll say that much. In any case, we're going to start with a Desires here. We're going to go into the Thoroughblade to discard the Bunnyblast in order to draw an extra card. It's a Whiptail, which is not too bad. However, I am a little hesitant to just straight up activate its effect right away. Sure, that's going to boost our Zoodiac monster's stats. However, I think more important than stats on our current Zoodiac monster is actually having a backup play for next turn. We do have another Desire, so I do think it's fairly likely that we would draw another Zoodiac monster next turn. However, we don't particularly need the Whiptail's effect because our Zoodiac monster is already going to have a decent amount of stats. 2400 attack is not too bad. And really, the extra attack and the banishing effect as a result will be less valuable than just having the Whiptail separate for, again, setting up a potential Zoodiac play next turn. I'm going to set one of my 2 impermanences because I do not want both to get blown out by a Harpie's Feather Duster. Now here our opponent's playing Generators, which this is my first time actually... No. This isn't my first time playing against a Generator deck, but this is my first time playing against a Generator deck where they actually get to like play out a lot of their stuff. They've even got a little Live Twin engine here, which I've never played against Live Twins in any capacity. I'm going to Impermanence this Live Twin here, because I figure, you know, I don't know what the Link monsters do, but knowing the concept of the archetype, I imagine they need, you know, 2 monsters to make a Link 2, so let's just go ahead and stop it right there. Now opponent's going to activate the field spell Generator Boss Stage, which is going to let them special summon a generator every time I basically draw or search. Our opponent is going to first begin with Har, this Generator Boss of Storms, which has a quick effect that contribute 2 generator cards in order to negate the activation of a card and destroy it. The Generator Boss Stage is also going to fill the board with generator tokens, so naturally I want to clear the boss monster off of the field before the tokens come down. I'm able to do so, and without further trouble from a Har out on the board, we are going to go into a Tenki and then a Thoroughblade. We're going to pitch the Thoroughblade for Ramram, and I do end up making a slight misplay here in a moment, not going into Vespenato. I think that play is fine. Moving straight into Battle Phase. I did intend to try to make a Zeus here. I really should have stacked something on Thoroughblade. I did not, because I didn't want to commit an AA-ZEUS monster into the back rows. I kind of wanted to save them since I didn't have a Pot of Avarice to refuel my extra deck if needed. I was being a little bit conservative here. However, again, if the end goal is to summon the Zeus, then we should be attacking with as many AA-ZEUS monsters as possible. So I think it was definitely right to overlay that Thoroughblade there. In any case, we are going to once again pop off by going into a Hammerkong. And then from there we can go into Chakanine. I like going into Chakanine and setting up a Zoodiac monster on the board, even if I can't do anything with it right away, because again, we're wanting to set up our plays for our next turn. This isn't just advice for Zoodiac, but really, not even just Yu-Gi-Oh! Any card game you're playing. You want to not only be thinking about your current turn, but what you're going to do on your next turn as well. You don't have to plan your current turn around your next turn necessarily, but just thinking, okay, what are we going to do next turn? We have to have a follow-up play for when our opponent inevitably responds to whatever we're playing. Now, if they don't respond to whatever we're playing and we're able to, you know, just play through it, then that's fine. As you can see, I'm able to go into the Zeus anyway, but like I said, it was a minor misplay because I should have had the extra option to go into Zeus. In any case here, we are going to activate the Zeus' effect during the end phase, even though we are fairly board committed because we have much more cards in hand than they do, and I'm fairly confident in my ability to close this game out in a timely manner. We're going to summon that Whiptail that we held on to, go into a Boarbow because we're out of Hammerkongs for extra materials, so I'm using a Boarbow as one before going into Chakanine. We will use Chakanine's ability to revive a Thoroughblade to our field in attack mode, and to get some more attack points I'm going to overlay this Chakanine into a Tigermoartar, and then use Tigermoartar's effect to attach a Zoodiac main deck monster onto Tigermoartar, once again giving her even more attack points. From here we're able to fairly easily attack our opponent directly for game. So yeah, I think Zoodiac is definitely one of those decks that looks less impressive on paper than it actually plays out in practice, especially if you've already played Tri-Brigade Zoodiac. Because again, when playing Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, I'm already so used to Tri-Brigade just like, you know, as a whole, as an engine. And I'm thinking like, well, you know, what do my Zoodiacs do in that deck? They're just kind of like there to make Zeus if I need it. Maybe Drident on the turn 1 play sometimes. So it's easy to kind of think of Zoo as this like, oh, you know, without Rat Pierre and Barrage, it's like, oh, what can they really do? But, well, Zeus is, or not Zeus, well, Zeus is pretty nasty. I was going to say Zoo is pretty nasty, but I ended up saying Zeus instead. Alright, without further ado, let's move into game number 4 here. Well, we've had another fairly solid opening hand here. We're going to get the first turn. I'm going to actually summon the Ramram out instead of the Whiptail because I want the Ramram's 2,000 defense points. Here we're going to overlay into Hammerkong, and then I believe from here we're just going to go straight into the Dryden. Yep. I don't need the extra material, I think, at this point. And I'm also going to set the Imperm before passing back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to summon Stratos, which I feel a little bad for bullying a hero deck. I mean, I'm a big fan of hero decks myself, and the only reason I haven't built one yet is because they require a large ultra craft point investment. Holy cow, there are a lot of ultra rare cards in the hero deck. It's a little insane, but we're definitely going to negate Stratos, and fortunately for us, our opponent does not have any follow-up in response to this. So here I'm just going to normal summon another Ramram. I am not going to use either of my Whiptails because I don't feel the extra damage is very significant here. Rather, I'm just going to focus on setting up my Zeus. I made the Boarbow with the extra Ramram with the idea of setting up the Zeus, again attacking with multiple Xyz monsters to ensure that at least one of them is going to be able to go into Zeus. Our opponent did have a clear board, but as I've said many times, I always respect the idea that our opponent could have battle hand traps. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm telling you, once you've played against Gores, like, people who played back in, like, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11 can testify, like, when you've played against a format where Gores, Tragodia, and Battle Fader are, like, fairly common, that kind of thing never leaves your brain when you're attacking. Like, after that, you're always thinking about that. It's kind of like, it's honestly kind of like Maxx is doing the Master Duel format. For us TCG players who aren't used to having Maxx around. Maxx's been around in the OCG, but like all of us TCG players are now having to suddenly think about Maxx again, and it's a little wonky, but it's kind of cool in that regard too. Yep, so here I am going to... I actually should have put this Hammerkong in attack mode, because I could have attached these Whiptails to it, potentially, but... Yep, I'm going to attack with the Vespenato. I'm going for a game here. It looks like I misplayed and I missed some damage, but remember that Whiptail's effect is a quick effect, so we can use it during the battle phase. This is why I said I should have put this Hammerkong in attack mode, but it's ultimately not going to end up mattering. We just normal summon the Skull Meister instead. Alright, that is going to do it for that game. We've got one last game here that I just played fairly recently. Yeah, and without further ado, let us jump right into it. That duel logo always makes me smirk a little bit. I don't know why. That's just cool, I guess. I don't know. Master Duel is cool. Well, parts of Master Duel. I mean, whatever. Any game has its flaws, but it's just cool that we're able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So easily now. It's pretty dope. I've missed this. I really have. You can tell by how many videos I've been making. I'm just so, like, into... I got way into this, more into this game than I ever anticipated getting. So here, actually, we get to show off our combo that I mentioned in the deck profile. This is where we're going to... set up a Zeus, or not a Zeus, a Draco future. And you can replay and go back. I'm sorry, I should have pointed out while I was doing it. But again, the way we do that is with Thoroughblade and Ramram. We summoned a Thoroughblade, discarded the Ramram, overlaid Thoroughblade into Chakanine. Chakanine detached Thoroughblade, summoned the Ramram. We then went into a Drident on top of our Chakanine, using Drident to blow up our own Ramram, which then brought back Chakanine, which we then overlaid into F-Zero and then Draco Future. Now our opponent is going to be playing this Kaiju deck with this Alpha, the Master of Beasts. I've seen this deck a few times. I don't really know what to call it. I think it's just kind of Kaiju, but... Yeah, but fortunately our Draco cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, making our opponent really unable to do a whole lot against him in this scenario. So you can see from Tenki we're going to go into Thoroughblade again, we're going to then overlay. We've not only got the Whiptail in our hand, but we've also got some Zoodiacs in our grave for some extra stats as well. We're going to summon Ramram, which again, we're not really able to do anything with this turn because we can't use it as an Xyz material. But I still like to work in the Chakanine to summon another Zoodiac monster. Again, I'm always thinking about a backup plan, right? And this Ramram in this scenario is my backup plan. Apologies for the dogs barking in the background there. In any case, we are going to be able to battle over our opponent very easily with this Tigermoartar that's got not one, but two Thoroughblades attached to it, giving it a whopping 3,300 attack points. Even our opponent's Kaiju Interrupted Slumber isn't going to do a whole lot here, because again, our Utopic Draco future is unable to be destroyed by card effects. And because our opponent put a Kaiju on each side of the board, they're not able to Kaiju it away themselves. Which is pretty fortunate. It would have been very easy for them to have a Kaiju there. They're going to go into Dragalong here thanks to Astral Karibo, but fortunately Draco Future does not target. I'm guessing my opponent assumed it did. It does not, so we're able to still take control of the number 97 here. Yep, the targeting protection, which I tried to show a couple of times, but the game wouldn't let me. The targeting protection is not going to save it in this case. Alright, so that is going to just about do it for this video. We showed off some replays. Again, if you want to take a look at the deck list, I'll go ahead and pull it up over here. Once again, this is the list I do plan on using for the Xyz Festival. I haven't made any adjustments from the deck profile at this time. However, if I do, I will of course be sure to update you guys as always. So without further ado, that is going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I super duper appreciate it, which I know I say all the time, and I say all the time that I say it all the time, but it's because I mean it. In any case, this is Hexlex, signing out. I hope you have a fantastic day.